This video is not intended to be exhaustive in any way and in no way meant to encourage the use of flower pot heaters or candle heaters, but this video is intended to give information about how to do it as safely as possible, so to reduce risks. I mean, the reality is this winter a lot of people are just going to have to use heat sources that are less than optimum in certain respects, and the risk of those heaters has to be balanced against the risk of cold damage from things like hypothermia. Any flame has its risks, any flame, especially used in an enclosed space like a house, like any dwelling. So it's something that's to be aware of. It does have significant risk, but that has to be balanced against the risk of cold injury. So the first and most obvious risk obviously is fire. And some people, I always have a bucket of sand nearby or whatever. That's great, but if you possibly can, get a proper fire extinguisher. It's always available. It's good to go. Make sure it's reasonably new, and make sure that it hasn't been tampered with. So that's the first and most important one. Second one, and the most obvious beyond that, is the surface that it's on. This one here is a big cast iron pot, so it doesn't get really hot for quite a while. So even now, it's been going for about 5 minutes. I can still put my hand on it. The bricks either side, again, they're they're very dense material, and so is the stone slab that it's on. You see a lot of people saying that you can put these tea lights on any surface that isn't combustible, like a couple of baking sheets or something like that. That's good. It'll protect the surface that it's on from being scorched, but it won't protect the tea lights themselves from overheating. If you've got a lot of tea lights in a reasonably confined area, there's also wicking heat down below it. And if what's below them, like a metal sheet, gets hot, then that can bring the temperature of all the candles up to the point that becomes dangerous. And when you've got really hot wax becoming very volatile, you're in a situation where you can get a much bigger fire than you'd expected. On that subject, if you look at the spacing of these, there's a good couple of inches between them. They're evenly spaced around the rim of the perimeter of the pot, deliberately, so they don't build up too much heat. I could get another 6-7 candles under here easy, and this would get a lot hotter and it would radiate a lot more heat, but also they would start to heat up potentially with each other and reach a sort of critical massive temperature. I want to avoid that at all costs, so I got them really widely spaced out. Probably better off going with 2 smaller heaters than trying to cram too many under one. The other thing that's really important is the height of this. You see a lot of these things being depicted, and I've seen adverts on YouTube for that matter, with depictions of these things, and the pot or the terracotta flower pot is down lower and virtually down to the same height as the candles. Never ever do that. That's very, very dangerous. We've done an experiment using 6 of these candles in a confined space with a carbon monoxide detector. I'll put a link to that video. While it was below anything that most people would consider dangerous in terms of experts on what they reckon harmful carbon monoxide rates are, there was a significant amount of carbon monoxide present. It's burning in a confined space. It's going to produce carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is produced in particular very heavily when you've got combustion in the presence of a low oxygen environment. So if we lower this pot down, what happens is all the hot gases come up, they fill the pot from the top, they fill it all the way down, and then the candles themselves are burning in a low oxygen environment. And that is how you produce, literally, it's one of the best techniques going for producing carbon monoxide. I actually had a comment on one of the videos that explained that someone was calibrating a sniffer for going down mines and so on, for testing all sorts of poisonous gases, and that was how he basically produced the samples for making sure the thing was working. That's a really effective way of producing carbon monoxide. Always make sure there's a really nice big gap. You want the candles to get plenty of air, and when the pot fills with hot gases, you want space for those hot gases to then spill out all around the rim and rise up, not go down around the candles, because the candles need fresh air, and the gases that are in here have already had the oxygen spent. So that's really important. While we're on the subject of carbon monoxide, get a carbon monoxide detector. We've got a really nice carbon monoxide meter, so we can actually record the amount. That's a bit overkill potentially. What you want is one that's going to go off with an audible alarm when it reaches a preset danger level. And absolutely always listen to it. Never just switch it off. Carbon monoxide is incredibly dangerous, and if you've got enough candles burning, you will be producing a large amount of carbon monoxide. The last point really is never go to sleep with one of these running. Never go to sleep with any flame running. This is the sort of thing that you can use when it is absolutely crucial and you've got no choice. If you're still connected to the grid and you just can't afford to run heat, there are better options than this. Much safer options than this. I'll put a link to that video. This is literally if you've got no other choice. Another potential issue, as well as the carbon monoxide, is particulates. Anytime you've got something burning inside, you've got particulate matter coming off. Different candles produce different quantities of it, and there's just no way of generalizing. Typically, beeswax candles are considered safer, but they're more expensive. But if you're preparing ahead of the time that you're getting really nice beeswax candles that are safer in, you're probably still better off getting something specific rather than something improvised like this.